Hi, everyone. It's Raven, the Vice President of Government Affairs at Ween, and we're really excited. We have Miss Ericka with us. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is such an honor. I'm always so super excited about all the amazing things that you guys have going on at Ween, and all the amazing women that come out of the program. I'm just really, really impressed by the program, the format, the curriculum. And so I'm excited to be here today, and hopefully I can share some wisdom.
Yes, definitely. And before we get started, why don't you share your social media handles with everyone? So as they're watching and they say things that you say things that are really inspiring, they can tweet you and Instagram you.
Oh, I love that. Well, it's really easy, although my boss have a funny story about this. My handles, I'll tell you in a second. My handles are Ericka, ERICKA Pittman, Pittman. So that's my Twitter and my IG, just at Ericka M. Pittman. It's a C and a K in my name. That's my grandmother's fault. So apologies on her behalf. But my boss told a funny story about maybe 3 years ago. That would be Sean Combs. He said, what's your IG handle? And I told him, and he turned around, looked back at me and was like, that's really dumb. Nobody's ever going to follow you. And I remember thinking, wow, is my Twitter handle and my IG handle dumb? But I thought, you know what? This is my personal brand. This is who I am. This is who I want people to know me as. I do want people to know the correct spelling of my name, know who Ericka M. Pittman is. And it was a smart move on my behalf. I think, whenever people think about my name, they think about my brand. So it works out famously.
Definitely, definitely. And I love that. I love that it's your first and last name. So it makes it very personable, and we definitely love it.
Good.
And you have a following, so he can't say no one will follow you.
Well, listen, he's not wrong about very many things, but don't bet against Ericka M. Pittman. How about that? That's the lesson we learned.
Love it. So we'll get right into it. Just for those of us who those watching who may not know, just give us a little bit about your background and where you went to school and things like that.
Well, I'm a native New Yorker. I was actually born in Manhattan and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I grew up in East New York, Brooklyn, which is the other side of the tracks, I like to tell people. I grew up with a single mom who is absolutely fantastic. She's my shero. Her name is Pamela Pittman, and she worked really, really tirelessly and hard to raise me sort of in an environment where I think our surroundings weren't necessarily open to the possibilities of the things that I've experienced in my life. So she made a lot of sacrifices and a lot of very calculated decisions about my rearing that I think have proven instrumental in my trajectory. So I went to school in New York. I didn't go away to school. I actually graduated from high school pretty young. I was 16, almost 17 years old when I graduated from high school. A lot of people don't know that about me. And I ended up going to college super early. So I went to CUNY, Baruch College, and I majored in corporate communications. And I think it's interesting because corporate communications is such a fluid category, such a fluid major. But for me, I've always worked in my exact major. So I've always worked in marketing, advertising, and public relations. So that's been really exciting for me. But the other thing is, I think in addition to my education sort of falling into place, my career fell into place very early on. I was always really driven by money. And for those of us that are watching this video, I'm unapologetic about that. That doesn't mean that I don't have a high moral code. But at the end of the day, what drives me is not awards. It's not big titles. It's money. I feel like money gives you access. Money gives you options and choices. And options and choices are what creates success in your life. So I've always been driven by that premise. And I wanted to work full time and go to school full time. And so I started going to temp agencies, like just, I was so young. I was probably about 17 years old, and I was just wanted a full-time job, and I knew how to type and I knew how to use computers. I'm a little bit older than some of the viewers here. So yeah, they still had typewriters and fax machines, and there was no internet, if you can imagine such a thing. So I went to a few agencies and submitted my resume, and I got hired at a company called iVillage.com, which is not around anymore, but about 5 years ago, they were still around. They were part of the Universal NBC network, major lifestyle destination for women. So I started working there in 1996 in their advertising department, which I thought was great. I was studying advertising. I was in the advertising department. I could get to learn a bunch of cool stuff. Learned a bunch, met a lot of cool people, was there for 4 years. And from there, my friends and I, we started a company called Madison Marketing, Inc. And the acronym was MINC, MMINC. And we were an events planning agency, and we worked with Mark Barnes in DC. And we actually promoted his Howard Homecoming Party. I think it was in 1999. Yeah, 99. And I was obsessed with this magazine at the time called Honey Magazine. I know you guys probably don't remember that magazine either. But it was the first African-American lifestyle magazine for young women. So, you know, we had Jet magazine and we had Essence, but Jet was super, super old. God bless Jet, but it was old. Ebony was old. And then Essence was like for your mom, but there was nothing young and cool and fashion forward and beauty focused and trendy. And then Honey came out, and I was like so obsessed with it and just wanted to be a part of that whole movement. And so I reached out, I looked in the masthead of the magazine. And if you don't know what a masthead is, when you open a magazine, there's a list of all the people that work there in the editorial and in the business side. And I went to the business side and reached out to the marketing people and just submitted a proposal to them and told them about this event we were doing. Ananda Lewis was on the cover of that magazine at the time. She was a television personality on BET, and she went to Howard University. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to have her host this event. I reached out to Honey. They said, you know what, we'll be media partners, and sent us down a bunch of POS. They sponsored the event, and it was a really fantastic event. The young woman that they sent to oversee the activation was so impressed with the execution of the event and just my level of professionalism. She asked me for my resume. I forwarded it to her, and she literally circulated it to every senior executive at Vanguard Media, which was the publishing company for Honey Magazine. I got a call from them maybe about a week later because they had a digital division, and I had worked at iVillage for 4 years. So they were super excited. Oh my gosh, a young Black woman that knows something about the internet, because nobody knows anything about the internet at this time, right? If you could imagine such a thing. So they brought me in and they hired me in their new media division. So, you know, this story is really long, but it speaks to a lot of things that we're going to talk about. But, you know, I had a passion. I was really committed. I was really excited about a property, and I reached out to them. And through that, I ended up working for the very magazine I was so impressed by. So I was there for a couple months, and I just knew a lot of people in the music industry. Young gentleman who was in sales was looking to leave, and he recommended me for a sales job. And I had never really sold anything in my life. So I was like, I don't really know how I'm going to do this. But I knew everybody in the music industry at the time, and so it just made sense. And I ended up selling advertising for Honey Magazine, Heart and Soul Magazine, and Savoy. And through that, I extended my categories to a bunch of other really cool categories like travel and all things entertainment, and was super successful at it. I actually realized that I was good at sales. I thought marketing was my track, but actually sales was a better route for me. And I did that for a few years. And then unfortunately, Vanguard went defunct. So I started to circulate my resume to the big ones. I was like, I want to go to the big publishing companies. And I went to Time Inc. And they had a diversity program that they were looking to hire young African-American talent. I was one of 6 people they hired, and they put me in this sort of fast track program to become an executive at Time Inc. So I did that for 2 years, and I got recruited by Condé Nast for Glamour magazine. I got a call. They said, you know, one of our accounts said some really fantastic things about you. We were looking for great talent in the marketplace, and they couldn't stop raving about how amazing you were and how professional you are and how buttoned up you are. We really want you to come in and, you know, sit down and see what we can figure out. And so I thought, wow, like people are like calling me, like, well, how does that happen? And this Glamour magazine, that's like a mega magazine. So went in, sat down, talked to them, got the job on the spot, worked there for about 1.5 years. And then I got recruited to Vibe and Vixen because my old publisher at Honey Magazine was now over at Vibe. And so they recruited me, and I became the ad director there. And from there, I got recruited to Giant Magazine. Alfred Liggins and Kathy Hughes had heard amazing things about me in the marketplace, and they brought me over to be the ad director at Giant Magazine. So the story sort of plays out that way a bit more. I ended up working at Blue Flame Agency in 2009, and I've been at Combs Enterprises ever since. Since that time, I've had 5 promotions in 7 years, and it's been an amazing ride for me. But the one consistent theme throughout my career was this level of excellence that I was putting into my work that had nothing to do with who was watching at the time. And I think the byproduct of that was everyone was watching. And so they saw, sort of stellar work, and the rest sort of played out on its own. So for the people that are watching us, there's no real magic trick. It's just really being excellent and being hardworking and being persistent and like not giving up. And people will see your talents and recognize them, and opportunities will present themselves. So we're done here, so we could just go. No,
I love that story because you speak a lot about, like you said, being excellent when no one is watching, and most importantly, creating your own opportunity. So when you approach Honey, it wasn't like, hey, I never did events. I don't, know about PR, but I want to work here. It was, hey, this is what my brand is already doing, and I would love to have you guys partner. And through that partnership, because you built your own thing, they were able to see your work. So I think that's an amazing lesson for all of our listeners. And can you talk to us briefly about the things you manage now at Combs Enterprise?
So my job is really unique here at Combs Enterprises. I'm the vice president of the chairman's office now. And so what that means is I liaise with our chairman, Sean Diddy Combs, and I work very, very closely with him on a day-to-day basis to ensure the vision that he has for each of his brands is in line, to make sure that our goals are being set and met. So I work in an operational capacity. I don't know if you guys can see behind me, but there is a group of people that we call our executive leadership team at Combs Enterprises. And these are all the people that are responsible for leading up all of the businesses. And so I work very closely with this guy right here to oversee all of the communication with all of these people. So these are presidents and CEOs of all of our businesses. A lot of people don't realize how large Combs Enterprises is. We have Aqua Hydrate Water, we have Sean John Fragrances, Sean John Clothing, Revolt Television, Ciroc Ultra Premium Vodka, De Leon Tequila, Bad Boy Records, Bad Boy Publishing, Blue Flame Agency, Bad Boy Management. So we have a lot of businesses that fall under Combs Enterprises. And so on a day-to-day basis, it's my job to interface and facilitate with all of these business heads and ensure we are hitting goals.
And in those, making sure everyone hits goals, what's your typical day-to-day? Like, I know it changes each day, of course, but what are just some of the things that happen on a daily basis or very often for your job?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because no 2 days are alike for me. I can sit down on a Sunday evening and map out my to-do list for the week. I have what's called a 30, 60, 90. And so I look at my life in 30-day, 60-day, 90-day increments so that I can figure out what it is I need to prioritize, what's imminent, and what really can kind of push back to the next month. Excuse me. And so for me, I come to work with a plan in my head of what I'm going to accomplish and what's going to happen. And then I end up with like 46 new fires that I knew nothing about. I think one of the things that's most interesting about my job is that I have to have some level of expertise in almost every arena that we operate in, because I need to be able to speak intelligently and provide informed recommendations to our chairman with regard to how we move businesses forward. So each of the people that you saw in the picture a moment ago, those people are specialists in their business. So Keith Clinkscales is a specialist in Revolt Television. He doesn't have to know what's happening at Sean John Clothing and Sean John Fragrances, and vice versa for Jeff Tweedy at Sean John Fragrances and Sean John Clothing. He doesn't need to know what's happening at Revolt. And obviously that list goes on and on and on. But for me, I have to have some level of understanding about the flow of business against each of these competencies. And so at no point in time do I ever get to sort of vertically drill down and specialize in one space. So I shift literally from the Flint, Michigan crisis and our water donations at Aqua Hydrate to the Bad Boy and the Family reunion tour, sponsorships, to planning the next big mega New Year's birthday party, executive producing, $1 million party, to it just all runs the gamut. You know what I mean? To presenting the fiscal year 17 plan for Ciroc Ultra Premium Vodka, and being able to speak intelligently about all those things and provide recommendations. So it's a real challenge. It takes a lot of focus and concentration, but it's fun, and it helps me to sort of use my brain in a way that I'm not necessarily used to using it. So that's always challenging.
That's amazing. So I know with a lot of that, time management can kind of be a little hard. What are some tips you can provide our listeners to how you manage your time and time management tips?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. The older I get, I'm starting to realize that there is no solution for time management. There was a part of me that believed if I implemented a system, it would just go into autopilot and I would be managing my time. But what I'm realizing is that it is a proactive, aggressive effort to manage your time on a day-to-day basis. So one of the things that I do when I am managing my time well, because I have ebbs and flows, right? So I have some times where I just zone out and I'm like wasting time and I just don't necessarily want to be bothered with things. Sometimes your brain overloads and you need to sort of lay low a bit and recalibrate. So I have those moments. But when I am on and I'm on my A game, the 30, 60, 90 is really, really pivotal, I think, for anybody in their life, whether they're super young, they're older. Looking at your life in a span of a month, 2 months to 3 months at a time will help you to align on the things that you need to get done, whether it's money that needs to be saved, whether that's courses you want to register for, whether that's mapping out a vacation, whether that's mapping out a plan to get married or, relocate. You need to be able to see how your life is speccing out by the quarter so that you can know how to get ahead of it. So that's the first thing. The second thing I do is I make lists. Lists are really, really important. I try to separate my personal to-do list from my professional to-do list because sometimes it's all in our head at one time and we're like, oh, I got to go to the cleaners, but I got to get this project due, but I got to do this presentation, but I need to get my travel for next week. And you can't do things like that because then your brain is shifting into personal and professional. So separating those two is really important. Using your voice notes on your personal assistant device, your iPhone, your Android, whatever it is, using your voice notes is really, really important because you can do voice to text. You can go back and play recordings that maybe you had forgotten about when something comes in your head at 3 o'clock in the morning, or, when you just get out of the shower. Trying to keep everything in your head at one time is what becomes overwhelming. It's sort of like balancing your checkbook in your head. It's just not effective. So getting it out of your brain, getting it on paper, or at least on a voice note helps to make it a reality.
I love that. Those are some really great practical tips that we all can use. You have so many great skill sets in sales, marketing, and PR, and just general different areas. If you didn't have your current position, what do you think you'd be doing in your career-wise?
That's a really good question. If I didn't have my current position, I would probably be doing something more in front of the camera. I think after my stint on Bravo a couple of years back, I realized that I love the front of the camera as much as I love behind the scenes. I used to always tell people, no, I'm the producer, I'm the director, I'm the behind the scenes girl. But I think after doing that and having that experience and also seeing how positively I connected with people that were sort of observing me in front of the camera, I realized that there's an opportunity to affect people in a more positive way. Being in front of the camera. So I think I would have pursued that, or perhaps pursue that in my next endeavor.
Great. So Ween, our focus is women in entertainment. So do you ever experience sexism in business, and how do you handle those difficult moments for those of our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. So sexism is real. Being a female in a position of power is a minority position. So when you are a minority in the majority, your voice is oftentimes not heard as easily. It doesn't mean that it can't be heard. It just means the way with which you have to go about sort of landing your message is a little bit more challenging. One of the things that I can suggest to women, particularly in the entertainment industry, particularly young women in the entertainment industry, is every man is not your boyfriend. Every man is not an opportunity to become your boyfriend or your husband or your cash cow or whatever it is you think you're trying to get out of these gentlemen. There are spaces for men to be mentors, to be colleagues, to be confidants, to be friends, to be professional partners. There's a space to create a power play in a relationship with a man that doesn't include intimacy. That's the first and foremost rule. That is not to say that people don't date in their industries, people don't connect in their industries, because they do. But what it is to say is that that is not the way that you should approach your path within this industry. It just doesn't serve you because of the idea of sexism and some of the things that we're talking about. What does serve you is to create an environment of respect, of camaraderie, and of excellence that forces your male counterparts to treat you like one of the boys and give you access like one of the boys and provide opportunities like one of the boys. That's not always easy because oftentimes boys get hazed, boys get treated rough, and you have to be able to roll with the punches. And just because you're pink and girly inside doesn't mean that you shouldn't be rough and nimble and agile enough to be able to sort of run with the wolves, if you will. So there's two things in that message. There's one thing that suggests you use your femininity and not your sexuality. This is really, really important. It's an important message that I want young women to really process. Your sexuality is the physical part of your being, right? Your femininity is the cerebral part of your female being. So if you use your femininity, you use it as an advantage to being something different in a room full of men, right? But that's not to say that you're supposed to wear a low-cut shirt or a mini skirt or flirt. You don't need to do those things to get ahead in a male-dominated industry, right? Those are some of the things that perpetuate sexism. So we have a responsibility as women to negate sexism, right? And so what we present in a room full of men has to change in order for their behavior to change. So in my experience, and the second thing was don't be afraid to play with the boys. So it was the femininity versus sexuality. And the second thing was don't be afraid to play with the boys. You got to get a little bit rough. So that means that if they're all, sort of bravadoing their ideas and their opinions, you have to be able to stand up and say what you think too. You know what I mean? But come prepared. Be prepared to get questioned, to get attacked about what it is you might be saying, to have your ideas stolen. Those things all happen, but just be prepared to roll with the punches. So yeah, I think this sexism does exist. I think that it is our responsibility to acknowledge it and to squash it at the onset by conducting ourselves accordingly.
Right.
I don't get sexually harassed at work. I don't get brushed aside at work. And none of that ever happens to me. And it's because of the way that I present myself.
Amazing. Do you have any business pet peeves that people that you're working with, you don't like them to do or it just annoys you?
Oh my gosh, girl. That's another Google Hangout. I've got tons. Everybody knows that about me. My biggest pet peeve is I align myself with really smart people. Really, really smart people. I like thinkers. I'm very cerebral. I'm very logical. I'm very 1 + 1 is 2. If it's this, it must be this. If it's blue and it's in the air, it must be the sky. Sort of some real obvious empirical truths about things, right? So I happen to think in that way, and I expect that of the people around me, my family, the children in my life, my mother, my support staff. I'm always like, what did you think was going to happen? We said this and we did that. What does that mean? So I just hold people to a higher standard of thinking, right? So I don't surround myself with dumb people. And what that means is if you do something dumb, I'm going to hold you accountable for it. Right. So I'm super laid back, really easygoing. But when people make really silly mistakes, I tend to lose my patience about it. But I'll have a conversation. And if they make the same mistake again, that's where the pet peeve comes in. And I get a little bit not so nice about it because we talked about it and you're smart. And it really is a compliment. It's just because I believe you're smart and I believe you know what you're doing and you don't have to make that mistake twice. I think that's my biggest pet peeve. And then I don't really like lateness, like people saying they're going to do something and they just don't do it or don't hold themselves accountable for not doing it. We're all human. I'm guilty of it too. But I you know what? I owe that to you and I did not deliver it, but I will do this in X amount of time. And just working towards being a person of your word is very important.
Right. And outside of your position at Combs Enterprises, you're also your own brand, Ericka Pittman. How do you balance your personal brand outside of Combs Enterprises?
It's a really good question. I try to keep them separate but equal. I think that the person that I work for is so magnanimous, like his personality is so omnipresent that it's very difficult to separate the two. I think it's really intriguing for people to see him put a woman in a position of power and sort of have us operate in tandem, you know, in partnership with each other like that is very unique. And it's certainly a conversation piece. But for me, I think what it is that I'm doing and who I've been over the course of the last 25 years is far greater than my time here at Combs Enterprises. And so I want to make sure that what it is I'm trying to communicate to young women, particularly young women of color, is a bigger message, and it's bigger for me. So those two things are separate but equal. And I think that he's done a fantastic job of respecting my vision for that.
I know you had a lot of great things happen, but what is one of the most inspiring moments in your career, and what made it most inspiring to you?
I think it's a good question. The most inspiring moment in my career, believe it or not, was when Vanguard Media went under. So that company folded, and it was really unexpected. It was an amazing, amazing environment. If you meet anybody that worked at Vanguard, we're all still super, super connected. Keith Clinkscales and Lynn Burnett did a fantastic job of building out that business in a time where nothing like that was ever happening before. So when it went under, it was a little bit of a culture shock for me. And I really didn't know what was next. And it turned out that it was the best decision or not decision, but the best thing that had ever happened to me in my career, because it forced me out on the skinny branch as it relates to going to work in an environment where, you know, entrepreneurship wasn't necessarily the forefront of what we were doing. I went from working at iVillage, which was a startup, and Vanguard, which was a startup, and thriving in both of those environments, but then having to go into a publicly traded corporate organization like Time Inc. and work for a magazine like Baby Talk magazine, which was a middle American white female mom magazine. And here I am, this young African-American single woman with no children. Being able to go out and do that stretched me in a way that that I think prepared me for quite a few of the roles that I had shortly thereafter. And I think it was really a tipping point for me in my career in terms of how I ended up navigating my path to where I am now.
Amazing. And in those inspiring moments, I know you've been recognized and awarded by various organizations. How does it feel to be recognized for your work? And a lot of young entrepreneurs or aspiring entertainment professionals, they're looking to be honored. What advice can you give them to working to be more recognized in their field?
You know, I think being recognized for a job well done always feels good. I always have this running joke, like, when did we stop clapping for everybody? Like, remember when you were a baby, you're just like, yay! Like, yay, Raven! Go, Raven! Doesn't it feel good? But I'm just like, Raven, go, Raven, go. We all want to be cheerleaded, right? Like, and for some reason, it just goes away. So being recognized for your hard work is, of course, an amazing feeling to know that people are watching you. And not only are they watching you, but they're appreciating the hard work that you're putting in to sort of create excellence. Not even sort of, but to create excellence. And so it's always nice to receive an award. I would rather be paid than rewarded any day. Just anybody out there, if you want to just write me a check and give me an award, fine by me. But at the same time, it feels good when a majority or a greater mass of people know what you're doing as an individual. For me, I would suggest just keep being excellent. You know, there's no real strategy to being awarded. You know, you can write some checks. You know, you can put your name on a building. I'm sure they'll give you a nice black tie affair for that. You know, you can buy your way into some awards and certifications. But in real life, it really is just about being a great person, being excellent, putting your positive attitude out there, being willing to go above and beyond, volunteering, helping people when you have nothing to gain in return. I think that's really important. Certainly helps you to sort of get that notoriety. And then aligning yourself in arenas where there's a passion play. So, you know, if there's some philanthropic initiative like the Ween organization or some of the other not-for-profit organizations out here, if you align yourself with those things and figure out ways to give back, I'm sure you'll be rewarded for it.
And I know you have an honor coming up this week. We would love to learn and hear more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be on a panel for the beauty of business. I don't know that I'm being honored, but I will be on a panel of really amazing women that I'm super excited about. Shawnee O'Neal, Beverly Bond from Black Girls Rock, Shawnee O'Neal from the Basketball Wives portfolio, and Toya Wright. Myself, and I think there's one other young woman on the panel. We're very excited about the opportunity. I think it's going to be a fun time to chat with the girls at the Essence Festival and do some cute, fun, girly stuff, have some cocktails, and really just talk about business and what it means to be a lady in business.
Amazing. And you've also been a longtime supporter of Ween. What makes women empowerment a priority to you?
Well, again, I do think that this is a boys' club. This is a man's world, but it would be nothing without a woman, right? And I think that we need to do more as women to truly connect with each other and support each other. And I know we say this so much. I mean, we wax poetic about it. Oh, we've got to stand together as women. We've got to do more. But in real life, we've got to figure out a way to make opportunities mutually beneficial for all of us. Men can go and get on a golf course and close billion-dollar deals together and figure out a way to make it work for each of them on a golf course. We will have 7-day summits. We will bring in the G6 of women. We will come up with a full plan as women, but for some reason there's a disconnect in what women know, what women have, and what women are willing to share. And so for me personally, I want to do everything in my power as long as I'm breathing to help mitigate that. I have seen my most success in my life to date at the hands of a man helping me versus a woman. And that makes me very sad because there's so many powerful, amazing women out here. But the reality is we don't help each other. So women's empowerment is really important for me because I want to put myself at the forefront, and I want to suggest that perhaps I get to be successful at work, be semi-fashionable, know something about beauty, have a sense of humor, and help some people do some dope stuff, and perhaps not always get something out of it, except just being a nice, good, cool person. Like, it's okay. There's enough in the world to help people without feeling like you're being slighted by it, you know? And that's really important for me. And I think Ween is a beautiful example of that. And Velicia's done such a fantastic job with sharing her abundant, amazing life with so many young women and creating opportunities for young women. And I commend her and want to help in every way I can.
Thank you so much. We know you have your monthly Pittman Rules column at Uptown Magazine, and we also hear that you're writing a book that's set to be released this fall. What made you want to start sharing the lessons you learned along your journey?
I think it's what I just said. You know, so many times we are the blind leading the blind. I know for me, a lot of my opportunities are first-time opportunities throughout my life. And I've had to make a lot of really important decisions in my life without the guidance of another more mature woman that has walked my path. And that's a really scary place to be in, you know, to sort of grow up. And for me, I was a good girl. I followed all the rules, which they're very stringent, as you know. You know, you cross your legs, you use your inside voice, you study, you graduate from college, you get your degree, you do all those things, and then you end up like as an adult with no rules. And you're like, well, what do I do now? Okay, I checked all my boxes. You know, I may have gotten married. I may have had a baby. I may have gotten like a managerial job. I may have gotten a master's degree or whatever those things are that you've checked off as this young woman. But then what? Or I graduated from college. I, you know, got my entry-level job. Oh, I was supposed to get married a year ago and I had no idea. Why didn't somebody tell me? What do you now all of a sudden now it's just like, well, you're an adult now. And they're like, I was just a kid 18 months ago. Now I'm an adult. So I wanted to use my life's experiences, good and bad, and use them as anecdotes to help young women to navigate the next phases of their lives. Like, you know, here's what I did. Here's what I didn't do. Here's what I wish I would have done to help you to make some informed decisions about where you're going next. And it's fun. It's going to be like a fun tongue-in-cheek read. It's not anything super heavy.
Nice. Do you have any up-and-coming initiatives or events that we can support you at, or just any initiatives that you need any of our listeners at Ween to support you on?
I do. I would love it. And then guys, forgive me because my blog has been a little bit stagnant over the last few months, but I would love it if the Ween Academy, Ween alum would follow the LWACE blog. It's an acronym. It's Life with a capital E. I pronounce it LWACE. It's LWACE. So Life with a capital E. And what it is it's just a blog or a community for women, like-minded women, to come together to talk about all things, you know, professional, personal, beauty, life, travel, romance, books. And I'm looking for contributions. So I'd love for you guys to come and explore the blog. Those of us that are looking to do some work in specific categories, figuring out ways to help, to contribute. I'm all about recognition, acknowledgement. So this is a portal of women that are experts in their fields. And we just, you know, we have a lot of fun on a lot of different topics.
Definitely. We'd love to be involved with that. If you could just say the website one more time for those listening.
Sure. It's www.lwace.com. And that stands for Life with a capital E.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any last words of wisdom or advice you would like to give our listeners?
Yes, I would like to say one more thing. For those of us that are watching that are maybe still in college or just out of college, I know you guys are a little bit discouraged about sort of, you know, where to go next, what to do, how to find a job, how to find a mentor, how to do all these different wonderful things that you're seeing happening in social media and digitally. But the reality is very early on when I was telling my story, I'm sure you guys were like, is she still talking? Like, wow. So she got this first job and then she did this and then she did this and then she did that. I've been doing this for over 20 years. Longer than some of you guys have been born. I've been working towards this stage of my career and I'm not even there yet. Like I haven't hit the pinnacle of my career yet. So what I say what I'm trying to say to you is that things take time. And you can't just think that you're going to wake up one morning and suddenly be the Instagram celebrity that you want to be, or suddenly be the senior vice president of marketing, or suddenly have all the amenities and all the things that perhaps your mentors have. They take time. And sometimes that's a decade, if you can imagine, or 2 decades, if you could wrap your mind around that. And I just really want you to sit with that and know that if you're a year or 2 out of school and you haven't been able to land that job that you're looking for, stick with it and just be super excellent in whatever you're doing today, because it will open up the door for tomorrow.
Those are amazing words, Ericka. I can't thank you enough for your time. I know you're very busy, so we definitely appreciate you here at Ween just for taking the time to give back to our members and kind of just instill some words of wisdom that are not in a textbook.
They will be soon when What Mommy Never Told You comes out.
Yes.
Definitely.
So once again, if you could just repeat your social media for anyone who logged in late, so we can continue to follow you.
Absolutely. So my IG and Twitter handles are at Ericka, ERICKAM Pittman, PITTMAN. That's Ericka with a C and a K.
Perfect. And for more empowering webinars such as these, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Ween Online. You could sign up for membership at www.weenonline.org. Thank you guys. Till next time.
Thank you.